I've got ground beef and russet potatoes, so I'm making a ground beef potato casserole. It's simple to make and it's so good. So I'm going to start by prepping my ingredients. I have half of a medium onion that I'm going to dice. Here I have several cloves of garlic. I'm going to peel my potatoes. And I am working with about 2.5 pounds of russet potatoes. You'll want to peel and cut into thin rounds or slices. You'll want to slice them as evenly as possible. This is kind of what I'm working with. Okay, so I'm going to start sauteing and cooking the potatoes. So I'm going to cover the bottom of my cast iron skillet with some cooking oil. And I'm going to saute and cook the potatoes for about 10 minutes or so. You want to give them a head start. You don't want them mushy, but I am going to add some salt and cook them until they're almost cooked through. And for those of you that do not want to saute and cook the potatoes in oil, you could parboil them. That's another method. I'm going for a one pan type of deal today, so I will be using a baking casserole dish, but I'm going to cook everything in one pan. So these have cooked for about 10 minutes. You can see I have some crispy bits. Some of the potatoes are cooked through, but for the most part, you're really giving them a head start. So shut off the heat, and now I'm going to place them at the bottom of my casserole dish. You'll want to work with a 1.5 to 2 quart casserole dish for this. In the same pan, over a low-medium heat, I'm going to saute my onion. Now for 1 pound of lean ground beef going in. And I'm just going to break that apart, and I'm going to season this with salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and some paprika. You can season your ground beef how you like or prefer. It's a very versatile dish, this potato and ground beef casserole, so do what you like. I'm going to be adding around 3 to 4 cloves of garlic that I minced. Here's the paprika. Sometimes I like to add smoked paprika and a little bit of onion powder. And that garlic salt pepper blend I use for everything when I have it. Okay, so just continue to cook, combine, and mix everything in the pan until the meat is cooked through. So I'm going to shut off the heat. This is done. And now I'm going to add this on top of the cooked potato in the baking dish. It's going to be a layer of potato, a layer of this delicious ground beef. It's seasoned very simply, but it's good. Okay, same pan. I'm going to put the heat on to a low heat setting, and I'm going to melt 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm basically going to start a roux for a cream sauce. Here I'm going to shake in maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. That's optional. I just like to add onion powder. And I'm going to give that a mix. And I'm sorry, I'm using a metal whisk in a cast iron skillet, so it's not easy on the ears. Here I'm going to sprinkle in 5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and this is what's going to create the roux. And I'm going to combine this and cook the flour for a little over a minute. And once the roux and the flour has cooked out, you can add 1 cup to 1.25 cups of chicken broth, beef broth. I'm just going to go for water. It's what I had today. But definitely go with a good broth or stock into this. It adds a lot more flavor. So I'm going to mix that in. And it doesn't take long for this to thicken. You'll start with 1 cup, add a little bit more until you get a good consistency. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. And honestly, instead of adding water or broth, you could just add milk to make like a cream sauce, but I didn't have whole milk. So I'm adding this table cream or heavy cream into the mix. It's actually thicker than heavy cream. It's more like a whipping cream. And that's kind of how I'm going to create this cream sauce. But if I had just whole milk, I would skip the water and just add the milk. I'm using that salt, pepper, and garlic blend again. And you'll want to add that to taste, or you could just add salt and pepper. And this is the cream sauce, very simple. And see how it has thickened quite nicely. You really want this thick because it's going to be the top layer of this casserole. So now you'll want to pour it on top of the ground beef layer, just all on top. And now I'm just going to smooth out all of this cream sauce to cover the ground beef layer. And you can top this with about 3 to 4 ounces of shredded cheese, the cheese of your choice. I had Colby Jack today, so that's what's going on top. And I'm just going to add that right on top of the cream sauce. And if you don't have this type of cheese, use cheddar, use low moisture mozzarella, or you can grate fresh Parmesan cheese on top. That also works. And you'll want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to bake this uncovered for about 40 minutes, or until it looks deep golden brown, crusty, and bubbly on top, just like this. This is perfect. And it took around 35 to 40 minutes in my oven. Okay, so I'm gonna have my husband help me remove this from the oven, and I'm gonna place it on the stove. Now the hardest part about this casserole, I mean, you could serve right away, but I like to sort of let it set up for about 10 to 15 minutes, but check this out, beautiful crust. And I'm going to garnish with chopped fresh parsley. Garnish how you like, or don't garnish at all. This just adds a pop of color and flavor. But now, after you let it set, you can start cutting your slices. And this baking dish is a little bit smaller than an 8 by 12 baking dish, just for those of you wondering like what size I'm using. Okay, so I'm going to cut the first slice and dinner is ready. This goes great with the side salad or some crusty bread or as is. It's so good, and it's very simple to make. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.